Thank you so much, Your Excellencies, the Archbishop of Milan, Cardinal Turkson, the Chancellor, faculty, ministers of government, officials. Kindly permit me to stand on all existing protocols as I greet you all. This is another day that the Lord has made, and we should all be glad and rejoice in it. I want to say a big thank you to the Catholic University for inviting me, to all of you for the warm hospitality since we arrived a few days ago. I'm very grateful and honored. In 2011, December, after delivering my Nobel lecture, family and friends who gathered around asked me, what next? And of course, I was elated. I had won the Nobel Peace Prize. And I said, well, I've won the prize. And their response to me was, yes, but you're 39. And you need another chapter of your life. And without even thinking, I said, I want to send girls to school. So we went back home. When I turned 40, my 40th birthday party was to launch a foundation that started sending girls to school. I had a plan in my head that in 10 years, if I had educated 100 girls, I had done my part and I could retire. So we started the journey. 2.5 years into the journey, we recognized that we made a huge mistake. We gave the girls all of the resources that they needed to go to school, but we failed to recognize that education, because all that we read, all of the data and the sciences told us, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. If you educate a woman, you educate a nation. If you educate a woman, you increase the chances of nutrition. If you educate a woman, you're able to stop maternal mortality. All of the beautiful things that we read in all of the research, we read all of those things and went running with it. But no one stopped to tell us how. So we started sending these girls to school. And then we hear from the schools that, oh, your student has not been back for 1 month, and this student is not in school. And when we go to ask the families, oh, yes, my daughter went to school, and she had malaria, and she came home, and we have no resources to send her to the hospital. And then we started getting cases of religious issues. And then this young girl is in school and she's about to be taken out to get married. We had issues of, I used to sell in the streets. And when I sold, I came home and I was able to give food to my family. But now that you've taken me out of school, I have no food to give to my family. So I don't want your scholarship. Thank you. I want to go back into the streets to sell. So we quickly gathered together and said, let's change our strategy. Let's think about what we need to do. We recognize that in order for you to educate this generation of young people, given all of the problems, the process has to be 360 degrees. And so we decided, let's start on it. So if we're putting all of our investment into healthcare, we're putting into housing, we're putting into all of the different things that we need to put in, what do we want to get out of education? What do we want from these young people in the future? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that is the question that I've brought to you all today. What do we get out of education in the world that we live in today? Look around us. From Syria to Yemen to Afghanistan, Congo DRC, one of the worst corporate genocide we've seen in the world. Millions of people have lost their lives. Gaza, all of the different places in the world where we've seen war. Aside from the war, the mistreatment of women and girls in some cultures. Aside from that, our climate is crying out to us to be responsible. Today, we have more technology than we can even figure out. Today, we have the world is so rich. Today, we say we have smartphones and smart cars, but unfortunately, we have dumb people. Today, we live in a world where when there is a problem, in the past, if two people started fighting, the older generation would stand up to separate and break out the fight. Today, when two people start to fight, everyone takes out their cell phone and populate this. The question to all of us is, how are we educating this generation of young people? What kind of world do we want to see? Because we already see that we live in a time where it's very difficult. And that was the question that we grapple with. As we sat at that table, we said, so what do we want to get out of it? The first thing we wanted to get out of that, the education that we're giving to the girls, was transformation of their personal lives. I'd like to bring Helena into this room, one of the young women that I met many years ago. And this young woman lived in a village where she used to go and help the fisher folks. Every morning she would go help them pull their canoe, and then she would sell the fish, and her uniform was tattered. But she was still determined. So when we went into that community with our education program, the teacher said, this is a smart one. So beyond going to sell fish every day after school, she gathered the ones who were not good in math, and she taught them math. But then the community had a problem. They said, if you keep her in this community, there's going to be a problem because someone would take her as their wife, as she doesn't have any relatives. Helena had a life. She had brilliance, but she had no hope for her future. We took her, sent her to high school, sent her to college. Today, Helena serves as the supervisor for the engineering team that is constructing the road at Liberia's airport. Her life has been transformed because of education. The second essence we taught for educating young people or for getting involved was transformation of society. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if we sit here and talk about everything, the sciences, the data, the algorithms, and all of the things that we've talked about concerning education, unless we begin to redefine what peace is in our work, and for us, we wanted to educate for peace and development. And not the peace that says we need to end war. So I have a new definition for peace, that peace is not just the absence of war, but peace is the presence of conditions that give dignity to all. So if we're educating the next generation of young people, it must be an education that emphasizes dignity of life, dignity of the human person, dignity, justice, human rights, and the basic human needs. So we wanted to do, and we want to do education in a way that everyone can step out, step in and say, I have life. Several years ago, I had the privilege of standing at the U.S. Naval War College delivering a lecture. And I asked the soldiers in the room, if someone came in here and gave you $500 and an AK-47 and asked you to start a war, would you do that? And they laughed and said, no. And my question to them was, why? They said, because we don't have any reason to do it. Fast forward several years ago, I'm in Libya immediately after Gaddafi left, and I'm in a room with 100 young men. And I asked these young men, if someone came, first question was, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And they all laughed at me and said, Auntie, you have a problem. We don't even see our lives 2 hours from now. And the next question was, if someone came in here and gave you an AK-47 and gave you $500, would you fight? And they said, of course we will. First, we have money in our pocket. Second, if that AK-47 and the fighting we're going to do is going to assure us of a better future, we will do it. So 2 nations, 2 groups of young people, 2 different responses. Why? Because there's one nation that has prioritized dignity, basic human security needs, food, education, access to health care. There's no way we can talk education if education is not, the end goal is not dignity for the human person. The final thing we decided to do when we thought about it is beyond education for peace, education for personal transformation. The final one was education for partnership with the goal of shifting. So I met the chief imam of the Republic of Liberia some years ago, and he came to me with 4 Muslim girls and said, I want you to send them to school. And my response to him was, Imam Krayi, Why do you want me to? So he said, because they are at risk of getting married at the ages of 13, 14, 15. And I said, okay, we'll send them to school. We took 4, we sent them to school. Today, one is also an engineer, one is a medical doctor, one is a nurse. And then the next year, he brought 7, and this year, he brought 29. And I said to him, Imam, I love the fact that we're educating all of these girls, but we are not solving the problem. The problem still persists in the community. So in order for us to do what we need to do as we educate them, we need to educate or partner with the parents so that they understand a transformation of minds. So we've been engaging with the parents, and today I have several older men who say to me, I am the ambassador. You spoke nicely about the partnership with Africa. And everyone came in here speaking about the partnership with Africa. It is my hope that this partnership is not a partnership of master and people, but it's a partnership that is going in understanding that there are rich resources on the continent. There are very smart people on the continent, and if you look around and you don't see any, look at Cardinal Turkson, look at Mr. Aite, look at Ms. Gbowee standing here. The continent does not lack resources. We have misplaced priorities in some areas of government, but there are people on the continent who are ready to do business and do serious business. So as we partner, like the Imam and I have been in this partnership, our partnership has recognized that no one religion is superior over the other. No one's personal idea is more supreme than the other. My hope and prayer is that the partnership with Africa will be a partnership that everyone will benefit in a way that it will give us sustainable peace, but primarily at the core of that partnership should be dignity. Today we celebrate the opening of a new school year. We celebrate the opening of mentoring the next generation of leaders at the Catholic University in Milan. But as we celebrate this, let us never forget that the core of everything we do is to transform human life, to give dignity, and to partner in equality. God bless you all. Congratulations, and have a wonderful day. I thank you all.